Welcome, I'm Nadine from Osvis. It's great to be here with you on this afternoon when we are being joined by our next guest from Chicago, actually, from Scout Security, which is an app-based DIY home security company that is making security more modern, more open, and more affordable. So it's based in Chicago, but ASX listed since 2017. Scout's been building a powerful software and service platform validated by white label partnerships that span multiple industries and multiple markets as well. So Scout has made considerable progress in the last 2 years since changing its strategic path from business to customer to seeking to scale via those white label partnerships, so basically B2B. It has announced agreements with Zego, Black & Decker, and also a 5-year commercial partnership with global security company Progressor. Dan Roberts is the founder and CEO. He will be joining you with a presentation just momentarily. Just let me get some housekeeping out of the way. If you do have a question for Dan, please, you can put it into the system just down there at the bottom of your screen via that Q&A button, and we will wait until the end of the presentation, and then we'll get some of those questions put to Dan. So Dan, thanks for joining us all the way from Chicago. We'll send it over to you.
Thank you so much, Nadine. It's great to be here. Happy afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. So before I launch the presentation, I will here momentarily, we put some news out today around our ProSecure partnership. So we are now officially launched internationally, which has been many months in the work and very exciting. So we'll talk about that here today, but just want to let everyone know, definitely check out the news from today because we've got some exciting things happening. So let me just share my screen here. And pull up the presentation. Not sure if you all can see that yet, actually. There we go. Okay, perfect. So as Nadine mentioned, we are a do-it-yourself home security platform. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means today. But at the end of the day, we do everything end-to-end that you need for DIY home security. So all the software, all the devices, and most importantly, driving towards recurring monthly revenue through back-to-base security subscriptions. So why are we in this business? How did we get here? Just give you a little bit of the background on Scout and where we're headed. It's a large and growing market globally. That's why today's international launch was so important. But the smart home market's been growing year on year for as long as we've been doing it, which is 8 years, and expected to grow exponentially into the future. So we like it not only here domestically in the US, but also internationally. A couple things happened in 2020 that actually have enhanced the value proposition. So some of the uncertainty, some of the fear around what's been going on globally actually tends to drive home security sales. And if you think of from a business standpoint, that recurring monthly revenue stream, both for us directly and our clients, is a huge asset to them when they might have ebbs and flows in device sales over the course of time. So we do have a cohort, a strong cohort in our view of large partners, including international company ProSecure, Windstream, which is a telco here in the US, Stanley Black & Decker, which is a Fortune, I think 100, and Zego powered by PlayLease. We'll get into each of those deals here in a minute and explain to you exactly how we do that, what we do with them, what their plans are for the future. But first, let's talk a little bit more about our platform. What does that look like? And it starts off with hardware being diminished in terms of what we do. So we want people to be able to bring the popular smart home devices to our platform. And what we want to provide is that end-to-end home security piece of it. So we integrate with the Amazon Alexa set of devices, Google Assistant, Yale, Kwikset, on down the line. But basically, it's a bring your own device type situation where people can integrate those popular smart home devices with our system and protect their homes in the way that they want to protect them, which we think is super important. So this was all stemming out of traditional home security. So traditional home security, very expensive on a monthly basis, typically a 2, 3, sometimes 5-year contract. And the technology, the devices that are being used were just not being pushed forward in the way that people expect in the modern era. So instead of trying to push the functionality and really make it a smart home, traditional providers were just trying to lower the cost of the equipment and really get to that RMR without making much effort on the technology side. So what we try to do, and as Nadeem pointed out, is we are trying to make that smarter, more affordable, but also more flexible. So renters, anyone who can't quite afford a traditional system, are able to get into home security and protect their family and anything in their home. So as we talk to our partners today, and as we talk through your announcement from today, I want you to keep in mind the international component of this. So actually, the USA has the highest penetration of alarms, and it's only 21%. So we've always seen it, even though we're not stealing from the traditional home security providers, we've always seen it as opening it up to a new demographic, those who couldn't afford traditional security, renters, anyone whose lifestyle just didn't fit with a 2 to 3 year contract and high monthly fees. Now, that gives us, 79% of the market to chew off another few percent and grow that market share. But globally, the penetration is even lower. And I might add that crime, generally speaking, in a lot of other countries, is higher. So it is a concern, and getting that affordable price point, really easy to use solution is super important. So all of our stuff, it's self-installed on your phone, controlled on your phone. So there's no wiring, no hassle, no installers, ships to your door. You've got video, cameras, video doorbells, and all of that pipes out to our monitoring service. So we provide, back to base or police dispatch 24/7 in all 50 states, Canada, and now in Latin America as of today, which we're very excited about. So again, don't want to spend a lot of time on the hardware. It's pretty much the hardware you expect from a home security system, but we're monitoring all the things, all the critical entry points around a home. We're monitoring for motion. We've got those camera devices. We've got the popular categories of devices like video doorbells. So consumers can come to us, get everything they need. And then as you can see on the side of the screen there, they have a really simple app interface to access not only their camera feeds, but to arm and disarm the system and respond to any events that might be occurring. So let's get to basically the revenue model, like how does Scout make money? And for a period of time, we were very focused on the direct-to-consumer model, let's say from 2013 to 2017. In 2017, what we did is we took that exact platform that we delivered to end consumers and made it available to enterprise partners. And so what they're able to do is use everything we've built as a turnkey solution, put their brand on it, and offer to their user bases. And we'll talk about why that makes sense here in a minute. But we now make revenue from 3 different streams. First and foremost, development fees. So we use Prosegur as an example because they are the news of today. But Prosegur paid $500,000 US in development fees in July of 2020 to bring their solution to market. So from July of 2020 till last week, we were basically building all the things that you need to do to stand up our solution on a different continent, in a different language, with their branding, and any app functionality or integrations that needed to happen. So we've now turned our development team, our engineers, from a cost center into a revenue generating piece of the business. And that allows us to get those customized solutions for our partners. Then whether it's direct to consumer or with our clients, we get the upfront hardware sales. So again, we're not focused on hardware. We don't want to have to move more widgets every month. So the hardware margin is less of a consideration, but we do generate revenue from those hardware devices. And that what we're all trying to get to is the recurring monthly fees. So we have really healthy margins on the recurring subscriptions. That's inclusive of the 24/7 police dispatch, or in Latin America, 24/7 dispatch of third-party security forces and video cloud storage. So you can start to see how along each path of our business, whether we're launching a partner, we're just starting with hardware sales, or we have this ongoing base of recurring revenue, that we're consistently generating revenue at various points along those partnership paths. So let's talk quickly about why we do it and then why our partners do it. So for us, we built this robust platform over 8 years. So we're able to basically do everything from customer service, the back-end dashboards you need to run everything, all the firmware on the devices, all the way up to customer service and the end user application. So we have all that ready to go. So it made perfect sense for us to go and make that available to our enterprise partners. And what they do then for us is basically they have unique channels, unique user bases that they can tap to drive revenue or sales. So let's take, for instance, the telecommunications industry. Typically, they already have a number of cable or ISP subscribers on a monthly basis. Very easy as a connectivity provider to add to that video cloud storage and other devices that will move data over those networks that have been built. They're bringing to us the subscriber base, so we're not paying that customer acquisition cost to bring those folks in, and we're providing to them the full-on solution. So at the end of the day, they get a turnkey solution. They don't have to have an internal team to be doing this. They don't have to have spent the last 8 years building DIY. It's very low risk. They know we have over 10,000 active locations that are operating out in the world. And we get all the benefits of working with a big brand that is going to play well, whether it's on a shelf or whether it's as an existing customer. So it's a very win-win situation for both parties. So I want to go briefly through a couple of our partners today, and we are going to spend a little bit more time on Prosegur because that's the news of the day. But we work in the multi-tenant, multi-family dwelling space with a company called Zego. Zego was purchased by Paylease, which Paylease oversees the payment processing for 12 million residential units here in the US. So, they have an app whereby those tenants can go and request maintenance, pay their monthly rent, and now manage their smart home. So we power that solution for Zego. We've been working with them since 2017. Actually, this slide's a little bit out of date. They now have over 10,000 units deployed, and they've ordered over 13,000 since we kicked off that program with them. And so when they are moving along at a normal pace, and 2020 was a bit strange with the pandemic, but they're doing about 1,000 units per month. And as you'll see later in the presentation, that recurring revenue, as you stack up multiple partners, each adding, 500,000, 2,000 systems a month, that really grows our recurring revenue base very, very quickly, and it's high margin. And it doesn't matter if we're selling more widgets on a monthly basis. Things like the MDU channel are perfect for us as a long-term, low churn, high margin business. One of our more recent clients that signed on, and I'm very, very excited about them. I know Prosegur is the focus of today, but very excited about Windstream. So Windstream is a top 10 US telecommunications company here in the US. They do over $5 billion in revenue annually. They have 1.4 million subscribers for their cable ISP and phone business. And they signed a deal in November to work with Scout on a custom solution. And that'll be launching, well, I won't say exactly when, but it'll be launching before the first half of the year's over here. So same type of thing. You can see the story arc where we're generating development fees from Windstream as their program moves to launch. Zego's already scaling. Prosegur's just now launching. So we want to have this diversity of enterprise clients launching on a consistent basis and helping us grow our recurring revenue. But the great thing about something like telco, and we'll talk about a little bit about our pipeline, but the telecommunications industry has always done bundling. So they have the cable offering, they have the ISP offering. Historically, they've had phone and VoIP, but that has gone away significantly over the last 10 years. So they need that third leg of the triangle, and home security, smart home is a perfect fit. We're talking about single sign-on into the app. We're talking about integrated billing, so they don't have to pay Scout and pay Windstream. It's all right there for them. So telco for us is going to be a big deal. Windstream's a big sort of initial deal for us to launch into that space. So now let's go to the news of the day. So as I mentioned, we signed with Prosegur in July. This past week, we just started selling our solution in Spanish, in Latin America, with localized servers in Peru. So Prosegur is one of our largest shareholders, second largest shareholder. They've actually been a shareholder since 2018. It took a little bit of time to get the commercial piece of it off the ground, but we've been working very hard over the last 8 months to get that launched. Prosegur is a massive security company globally. They actually operate as a brand in 26 countries. They operate as an alarm business in 11 countries. They have their own third-party security service. They have over 500,000 traditional alarm connections across the globe. And you can see how DIY can become a big piece of what they want to do in the future, because they need to have both pieces of that, the traditional and where we're heading with the DIY smart home. So we launched last week in Peru. If you search online on YouTube, and if anyone asks, I can send you the link. They've actually created a very professional commercial, which has garnered a lot of views. They're doing a big press push and launch push right now. But the key piece of this, because we've already announced this to the market, is in terms of they are going to launch this quarter. The key piece of this that we're able to say today is that we're going to launch in 2 to 3 more countries by the end of the calendar year. So my team's going to be very, very busy, but we're excited. Latin America, I think, especially as Latin America grows and changes, it's going to be a huge opportunity for home security. Prosegur has that incredible brand there and across the globe. So we're just very excited to be expanding with them, and watch for more news on that front as we get them rolled out and start to get their orders scaled up. And then last but not least, Stanley Black & Decker. So I won't spend too much time on them today, but we do work with Stanley Black & Decker in the light commercial space. Our hope in time is that we will have a consumer offer with one of the Stanley Black & Decker brands. Obviously, Stanley is a brand, Black & Decker is a brand, Craftsman's a brand, on down the line. 2020 was particularly hard on in-person retail. So we'll have more information about their programs as they evolve. And certainly not the focus of today, but they are a massive corporation. And when that does come back around, we're going to be very excited with what Stanley can do. So what we wanted to do, and this presentation does live in our announcement, or we can send it to you if you'd like to go through it in more depth. I don't want to spend all the time. I know we need to get some Q&A here in a minute. What we tried to do was a worked example. So it's not specific to Windstream or Prosegur, but it kind of flies in the middle of like, what does an average enterprise client look like? What does it look like if we then take our average margin assumptions? If we say, okay, we're going after 10% penetration of their base, and then you have this 2 ends of the spectrum, like an entry-level camera package all the way up to a full suite, full-on security package. What does that look like impact-wise from a hardware margin perspective and an RMR recurring margin perspective? And you can see that any one of these partners could drastically change the face of our business. And I've said in multiple presentations this year that I really see 2021 as the inflection point for Scout. Not only is Prosegur able to scale very quickly across Latin America and beyond, but then you have folks like Windstream with just a massive install base already. They don't have to work to go get new customers. They have the base and they can push the messaging out to them. So if you track this through, and the key piece of this is the recurring, right? You can see that on the low end, 10% penetration on a camera package, we're talking about $135,000 a month, up to the full suite home security system. You're talking about $600,000 a month. And that's one customer, right? It just takes one of these guys to get going at scale. And if multiple do, we're going to be all very, very happy. So, Prosegur, the news today is just indicative of where we're headed, not only with them, but with Windstream and other partners. I'm not going to spend much time on this slide. This kind of just shows you how quickly, if you assume a very small sort of month-on-month increase in residential installations, how quickly that grows the recurring monthly revenue and then the annualized recurring revenue. This is where I want to spend a little bit more time. I know we've got about 10 minutes here, so I do want to leave some time for Q&A. But what we tried to do was provide to you basically the way we see calendar year 21 flowing in terms of cash flows. So taking what we know and what we can expect, we're very comfortable in striving for not only a cash flow positive business this year, but a profitable business. And so if you look at it, just this past November, we raised 3.5 million Australian dollars from a cash perspective. So that's our sort of base starting point. We just took our overhead from fiscal year 20 and said, okay, this is what that was. We already have an existing base, like I said, over 10,000 systems that have active recurring monthly revenue subscriptions. So we already know, based on historical churn and everything, what that's probably going to look like in terms of revenue for recurring. We already know what some of the existing hardware orders have been for the year. Similarly, and this is actually dialing back our white label development fees from last year, we've assumed a pretty reasonable, pretty conservative amount of development fees for the year. And then where you get into the last two columns, that's where we think the business can go. So just knowing our existing customer base, what they've done in the past, what we expect them to do this year, you get very close in the base case to that cash flow positive. Now, if you add in some of our new customers and take a slightly larger scale as a result, you have the medium case of where we think we can go if we achieve moderate scale. And then you have the sort of high case, right? Where all of the customers are, producing according to forecast. That's when we really start to accelerate this model and grow the business. And we're very excited. And I think we're on the right path to doing that. Again, illustrative by the Prosegur announcement today. So I've covered a lot of the key highlights here. I invite you to revisit this, but this just summarizes the deck, what we've been able to do, where we're headed. And then last is I just want to share with you, and I'll leave this up as we do Q&A, but just give you a sense, as of Friday, we were at 11.5 cents. Looks like that's been fluctuating a little bit up today. I'll give you an idea of our market cap, what our top 10 shareholder base looks like, and then our board members over there on the right. So, we've got myself here in Chicago, a number of board members in Australia, and then my co-founder as a non-executive, Dave Shapiro. Last thing I'll say is if you note there, Amazon.com is a top 10 shareholder. They invested in the business in 2015, and that's one of the things that ties us so tightly to the Amazon Alexa Fund. So I invite you all to check out the presentation in more depth. Reach out to me with more questions. We're going to take some here in a second. And also check out the announcement today from Prosegur. We're very excited about where that's headed and what that means for Scout's calendar year 2021.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. We've got a question coming in from the audience saying, what triggers the further rollout of new progressor countries? Will it depend on the success of the launch in Peru, or is there a pre-established timeline?
Yeah, so I think the program scaling is a consideration, but being able to announce today that we've already targeted 2 to 3 additional geographies before we have any real sales data back from Peru, I think demonstrates that Prosegur is committed to this program. And I think how quickly does it go to all 26 countries is yet to be seen, and will be dependent on the success in some of the prior countries. But they know, and especially in Latin America, that it wasn't just a one and done country pilot. They're already looking at a pretty aggressive rollout schedule in the calendar year.
Okay, another question that's come in: where are things at with Stanley Black & Decker? Has COVID just postponed the launch of new products with them, or is there a need to revisit the deal?
No, there's no need to revisit the deal. I think it's poised to be picked up as soon as they're ready. I think retail foot traffic was 35% of what it was, the year prior in 2020. So really tough year for the consumer facing piece of it. Anything that's in person, Stanley has a lot of in-person service businesses. So you can imagine, as a $22 billion company and us being a relatively new program, they had to tend to the core and figure out how to realign strategy based on the global conditions. But we fully expect that that'll come back around. And I think the avenues we were pursuing with Stanley are all still very valid and viable. It's just you got to have the right market conditions there to push that forward.
Okay, Dan, another question. Can you give us any color on the pipeline for potential new white label partners? Do you foresee new industries or new geographies, or seeking more to reinforce your existing footprint?
Yeah, telco. That's what our pipeline really is focused on, rather. MDU, the multi-tenant, multi-family space, I think is a big deal. But for me, I'm really focused on the telco and security industries. And the reason being, for all the reasons I laid out around Windstream, with phone and VoIP going away, those entities already providing the connectivity, the multimedia piece, like there's just a lot of overlap. They need to move data over those networks. Our system's moving data. They're already in the home. Some of them already have installer bases. And for us, what we love about them is they're huge. Even Windstream is only in 18 of the 50 states here in the US, but they have over 1.4 million subscribers. And there's that brand loyalty. They're reaching a mass market consumer group. So there's a lot of things to like about telco. And then, of course, the security industry, the traditional security industry. I see a lot of folks like Prosegur wanting to modernize their product mix into the future because smart home and smart home security, I think, is not going anywhere, and they know that.
No, IoT as well. So in that context, I mean, where in terms of the geographies do you see the potential? I know we've talked about Latin America, but I mean, do you look toward the UK, toward Europe, or is there enough on your plate where you're putting your focus right now?
Yeah, look, there's some really interesting things that have happened in the market. So, Europe's a no-brainer for us. Prosegur is headquartered in Spain. The regulations in Europe are a little bit different from Latin America. That's why Latin America was a little more logical first step in terms of launching. But absolutely, Europe's on the table and other global geographies. One thing I'll call out, and this is not even really our news, but if in case the listeners aren't aware, Telefonica actually purchased half of Prosegur's security connections in Spain. So you can kind of see the worlds coming together there, where you've got a giant telecommunications company in Europe interested in home security, working with one of our partners. I think it just really highlights where we see things going, not only in terms of a pipeline perspective, but also international expansion in Europe and beyond.
Another question, how rapidly do you expect recurring revenue to scale up? Yeah, I think you might have answered that in this presentation, but it all does come back to that recurring revenue metric, doesn't it, Dan?
No, it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where, we can make a lot of money on hardware, but where we control our own destiny is with the recurring revenue, because then we don't need to sell more hardware in any given month. And of course, we always want to sell more hardware, but growing that recurring is where you control your destiny. And it really just depends on how quickly the partners scale and how our whole goal is to help them scale based on our experience over the last 8 years. So it can get pretty accelerated pretty quickly, as you saw in that chart. If we get to $600,000 a month, which right now we're about $600,000 a year, a little bit over that, we're in great shape.
Okay, refresh us then what the timeline is for that, because it sounds really easy. I mean, what are the challenges that you face?
Well, if you think about Windstream, for instance, 1.4 million subscribers, it just depends on how quickly they push that out to some subsection of that, right? If we're saying Scout internally, our goal is to get, 10% penetration of that base. They could email 1.4 million people tomorrow. They have all that contact detail, whether it's, again, direct mail, email, inside sales team. Just how quickly they open it up is going to be dependent on like us getting them launched, getting those teams working, marketing, inside sales working, seeing what the uptake is on a sample set, and then scaling that out. So I think it's going to be mirrored to how quickly they order inventory and how quickly they push their marketing plans. But the beautiful thing about it is they're not going and necessarily advertising to get new customers in. Of course, they want to sell it to new customers as well, but they have 1.4 million people to work with. So that's the beauty of it. It can scale very quickly if all the right pieces are in place.
All right, Dan, it looks like those are all the questions coming in from the audience. Look, really great to have the presentation. We hope to see you down under sometime soon.
I'm looking forward to being there. I just got my first vaccine shot yesterday, so hopefully it'll be sooner than later.
Congratulations on that. All right, thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
We'll speak soon.
Thank you so much. You too.